good afternoon, and thanks for keeping up and showing up. Who was here yesterday? Hands up. So all of you have looked up there, right? And I promise to you the facial recognition has recorded your faces, and that I will come after you if you're not here. So your names are ticked off. Thank you very much. You're not going to receive an email from me. I'm going to have 45 minutes with 3 great individuals joining me, one being a lecturer of our program, 2 being 2 of the participants. It was really difficult for me to choose because I had like almost 58 people like coming all together, 80, 90 people, all so great. So it was seriously difficult to choose. So I'm honored to have them on the stage with me. After that, I'm going to hand over to HP. It's a pleasure to have you. And I have to tell you the truth, I'm actually personally more interested in what's happening after these 45 minutes, because what I do is looking at what we've done, and what HP shows you is what's coming up next. So thank you for that, HP.
Thank you.
Pleasure. So join me to invite on the stage Axel, Eugen, and Hannes. Please join me. Please take a seat. Before I start, and this is what I'm planning to do, before I start, would you guys, just that you like kind of check your microphones, give me 1 sentence about who you are? I know who you are, but just for the people out there, and then I start. Axel.
Sure. Hi, I'm Axel. I was actually kicked out of a couple of schools. I used to play in the most shitty punk rock band you can ever imagine, and I like to build companies.
Hey, I'm Eugene, and I run Publicis in a country you guys most probably don't know. So just a quick question, who of you exactly knows where Moldova is? Raise your hand, please. Oh, I'm surprised.
Many people. You lost another bet again.
Yep.
I'm Hannes Böker. I'm working as a creative brand strategist for Red Bull. Now I've been 20 years on working in advertising in different agencies, and now, in a way, changed sides.
Thank you guys for being here with me. Let me tell you briefly what's happening now. What you see going to be a very short sneak into the headlines of what we have produced as a white paper, which is actually with immediate effect online. So at the end of this presentation, you see the link. You can start downloading it, take a look at it. It's free for every one of us. I've been thinking a lot since yesterday as I was standing here watching the other great speakers talking and looking at what we have produced, and we are all talking about this flat organizations and the collective and all of that. So I started to think it would be not true to what we have done if I do not walk the talk. So what I'm planning is to start having this white paper, unlike any other white paper ever before, to be very organic, meaning I will be primarily inviting the people who've been in the program. Thank you for some of you I see up there. Marty, hello. Can you stand up for a second? Just for a second. Oh, hands up is enough. Well, people don't see your face. He was a super supporter while we were producing the white paper, so thanks for all effort, Marty. The design is from Marty, actually. It's important to appreciate great work. So I will be actually animating people who took part to start comparing what we have created with what they have produced as notes, and I will be then evolving and optimizing that white paper again and again and shoot out versions of it and make sure that it's not only me curating what I have observed and collected out of that 9 months of work and those workshops and in between, but also every personal note will come into there. Why? Because I have realized that at the end of the day, and we had this debate actually yesterday, like, what have we done? Have we developed something for organizations, or have we developed something for individuals? And I have to say, I have the feeling we have given individuals a lot more than organizations, but I also start understanding that there are only these individuals who can change the organizations. So I don't need to be worried about giving a blueprint to some CEO and say, go with this and change your company. No, I have to make sure that individuals like us start getting involved in that journey of that transformation. And once every one of us start walking towards that next level, the organizations will change automatically. So that's why I'm becoming more and more convinced to focus on every single of you. So that just as a talk before. I need that next page so that I can start clicking. That would be very awesome. Beautiful. Okay, so you guys bear with me. I'm going to go 4 pages, talk a little bit. If you want to say something, keep it in your mind, practice it in your head. Then I end up with 1 page covering, in a nutshell, our prediction. Going to sit down, ask you questions, and let you take the rest of the time. Okay? Fair. Fantastic. So for those of you who aren't here, that's very few, so I'm going to be very quick. This is roughly where we started. 9 months ago, 3 cities, almost 90 participants from 21 countries, over 50% being female. That was awesome. Young, old, junior, senior. We had a 25 years old someone who is here. I know where he is. I don't know where he is, but he's there. And then we had like kind of 50 and 50 plus people. So that was really, really good. It helped a lot. And we had, as you see, like creatives, but also like architects, and architects are creative, but like not typical advertising. So that all helped a lot. If I would start summarizing and say where were the core drivers, where we started to feel that is the reason why the industry is urged to move forward, I can consolidate that in these 3 categories: human, technology, and the new market players. When I talk about market players, I'm talking about every Accenture of this world who started to come and swallow some of you guys and enter your business, Googles of this world, and so on and so forth. When I talk about technology in the white paper, we are talking about the technological platforms, the media platforms, the tools. If you are talking about AI, it's simply the toolbox AI. If you're talking about blockchain, we are talking about the platform it provides, the process it provides, or the system it gives you. So, but when we are talking about human, it comes down to everything. By everything, I mean, before we started to run this program, we've been debating. So do we want to be client-centric, or are you customer-centric? And then, no, fuck it, we are actually human-centric, because the same guy, today being the marketing director, goes back home, get changed, go to the shop, and start buying stuff. So then it's a consumer. And I don't know, like kind of, there is, and doing a great job, it's a talent. So it's human-centric in order for us to then define, depending on where we are with our organizations, to then focus on being client-centric, talent-centric, consumer-centric. From society-centric, we are trying to talk about the fact that the time has come that you guys interact much more beyond being great communicators using your creativity and do something about what's bothering us out there. So how can we really have an impact? And we are not talking about that impact as a buzzword with the industry uses, but real proper impact. So we thought, okay, let's be society-centric, knowing that like some of us sit here, do whatever we do here, and then you go and look some news in your hotel room, like I did 2 nights ago, Al Jazeera, and showing Yemen, and then some people who I thought like, these guys are from 200 years ago. It's like on this planet, but it's so far away. So we are not aware, fully aware of that, or we don't live it. So by society-centric, I really mean it. How can the future model impact and have us being the ones who change the planet? And mean it. I personally mean it this way. From there on, we went to categorize the type of problems we need to solve and try to bundle them big. So through the white paper, you will see a problem section and a long list of solutions, either being descriptive or giving bulletins, which you then can cherry pick and start cooking the soup for your organization out of it. At that stage, we started to focus on innovation, on technology, again, that human centricity and the talent issue. I'll tell you later, or the guys will tell you later, why I'm separating between the talent and client centricity at this stage. And I tell you why I put the innovation up there. As we started to work with these people, and like they were all like great creative-minded people, but every time we ended up asking them, okay, let's simulate a structure, an organizational model, we ended up having some really random, non-existing ideas. Everything was pretty much innovative. And it showed that whether we like it or not, but it looks like the tendency is going towards let's build stuff which aren't there. So we didn't have, after so many workshops with these people, not even a single model which I would say it was of use for any of the holdings on this planet now. So I have no answer how WPP will survive. One day they have no money more, or someone buys them, and then it's done. No?
No, I don't buy them.
You don't buy them. Do you have so much money? So, but I heard someone actually is planning to buy them. I read something, yeah. So. So that's so far. Okay, you guys get mentally ready. It's a lot, but I will introduce that to people. So if anyone would have had today the gun here and say, can you in one page tell me, look into this glass ball and tell me the future of agency, this is how I try to push it together in one page. So this is, so to speak, the extract out of the 28 pages you will read. And there is no order. It's only the smallest is at the top by accident. So, but funny enough, fortunately for me, the one which is the most important point to me, it's very much up there. So let me have my back with my X to you. Human-centric, standing there. Definitely a collaborative system. And something funny for those of you who are here, if you remember what you've heard from the people yesterday, many of these will come into your mind, right? As I was listening to them and seeing those, like the lady from Sweden or Ray, I started to say like, oh shit, we spent like 9 months trying to predict the future, and then there like kind of 5 people come on the stage and say like, yeah, we're doing it already. So F word, but then I started to think, no, actually it's, thank God, these guys were so minority that I can say we have a proof of case. Few of you guys dare to already start doing it, and our job was to come up with a recipe which is applicable so that you can go tomorrow and start with it. And today when I say that, I say, you know what, if you don't believe that, ask people who came here yesterday, it is possible. And for them is also a message, well done, you instinctively went that way, or you had your thoughts and you went that way, and I can assure you, I sat with 100 people and discussed it 9 months long, and we all say, yes, please, let's go this way. So for me, it was a good feel afterwards, but I was surprised, positively in a way, afterwards. Okay, that said, and I will give you another 3 pages after our talks, and for someone need to help me, you are the one who's going to help me. I knew that at the beginning, I'm going to time myself 45 minutes, but I have no idea now how much of it is left and gone. So be kind to me and show me 3 or 2 minutes before it finishes, and then I can stop you guys wherever we are and get ready for HP. I don't want to delay you. So may I sit, if you don't mind? And thank you for bearing with us. Is that so far everything okay? Can you nod in a way that I can see? Yeah? Okay, so that's enough nodding. Thank you. Good. So I put together 5 or 6 questions, and I made sure that each of you have one, and I stole them out of the conversations we had during lots of beer and wine drinking. So if you're like not really accurate,
That actually was the program.
it's
We did
my
lots
fault.
of beer and wine drinking.
I have 3 questions for each of you, one, and I have 3 questions which is, I think, interesting for me because I thought if I weren't who I am in my position and not designed it, but was in one of your positions, I would have asked that question myself. And I hope that these questions will help for you guys to get a little bit more feel about what has happened and why this result is coming out. And I would like to start with you, Axel. It's not a coincidence that you're sitting here. So, you and I were talking, and it is in here hidden. You always talk about, and we did it during the workshops, we didn't formulate it this way. You just formulated it after the program was finished in Berlin. And you said, these collaborative systems you're talking about, or these decentralized organizations, are the so-called temporary organizations. Can you expand on it for me? And tell me, or tell us,
Sure.
why do you think that this temporary organization is the base model of future organizations?
I mean, if you allow me, I would start not from an organizational perspective, but rather, since I've heard it yesterday in a talk, actually the importance of an IQ. I mean, you're obviously aware that an IQ might be a thing for all of us, but on the other hand side, that the EQ is important, the emotional quotient. But if I push that a little further, I think what is even more important today is the so-called adaptability quotient. So how fast can you actually adapt to new circumstances? That might be that you actually change your job, your title, your skills. And I think the pace that this is happening currently is accelerating. And this reflects back to an organization. If you look at organizations, they have to adapt quickly, otherwise people will actually get totally bored and they leave to a better place wherever they're treated best. And this is definitely an important thing for an organization, that they have to adapt as well. And most of the times it is even better to shut them down and create a new organization out of it. That's the temporary aspect.
Okay, thank you. Did you understand that? See some yes. Okay. Hannes, yesterday you said something where actually you said, look, I was making notes the whole time, learnings, like the extract of my learnings, and I gave it a title. So I wrote down your title, and it's like a very big one, so it's a big mouth title. You said, I made notes and I said, it's the post-advertising agency age. So the post-advertising agency age is actually a different title for the future of agencies. So tell me about it. What was the consolidated version of your notes out of this program?
Yeah, it sounds a bit big. It wasn't meant that big, or didn't have to have this size. And I'm not quite sure what I'm meaning with that agency that we are overcoming. But my impression was that all agency I've been working for have been overcome. So the structure of very much top-down, work now, get paid later in a way, doesn't work anymore. And that, as far as I am concerned, we always tried in the agencies I worked for, tried to have a very broad portfolio and repertoire and possibilities of ways of solving problems. And now, as I work for Red Bull, I work not for the can, but for the fashion and for merchandise. And all this, it's very different, a very different and diversified setup that we're working from. We're actually only working with very small entities, and that works perfectly because everyone we're working with is very specialized on what they're doing and very focused and very good actually at it. When I'm thinking back of what I have done, I started off as a graphic designer and then became art director, and I did packaging and corporate design and ambient design and billboards and ads and films, and today I would say there's no such genius doing all of this, but rather have the one guy who does this and one guy who does that. That's the one thing. And the other thing is that I realized that the money that went into advertising and how much money we were able to spend on certain things changed. So I would say now my impression is from clients, money goes to either branding, so more or less design related and how do we want to look, and on the other hand, to a kind of dialogue. So in a way, connecting, and not in a way connecting with anyone out there we want to talk to by just in your face, but have a, I don't want to say conversation, it's not a conversation, but having a connection in a way. So it's two streams, and I think the money goes away from all I've done to, on the one hand, branding. I think branding is very important and on the rise, and on the other hand, dialogue or coding, if you want. So digitally based, real connection to people.
If you guys want to say something, you can, but I have a question that, like, being now at this client side, and because during the program we started to assume that the future model is like very small agile organizations with specific focus, being expert in one thing, being able through that agility and that focus anywhere locally, but act globally on projects. Did I get that you right? So you're almost working with that type of agencies or group of people right now, or do you create it inside? How did I understand that?
Yeah, I would say we work more or less like that. We do work with an agency, but it's a very specialized agency again, and they get freelancer teams in. So it's a different setup. It's yeah, we're working like that, and this globally. I mean, we're not working with all of the world in mind. Of course, we know if we put something online, it goes worldwide. But it's always yeah, it's like you said, with small entities working together. Cool. Yeah, that's what we do.
Eugen, but you said your name differently, right? Eugenia, something like that?
Yeah, it's actually Eugenia, but
can
you
I
can call
say
me Eugen,
Eugen?
it's fine.
Yeah. I have a question for you, but that applies to anyone else and to my students, like to the program participants. They were not my students, they were my friends, or they are my friends now. Distraction. You remember this woman, this lady Maria? I think yesterday I had this picture of picture of her friends, like make 100 friends. I'm making that with every program I do.
365.
Yeah, I have a lot of them, I tell you. I have a question for you, and it's twofold. Don't lose yourself in there. So the first one is, and that's, I love it. I remember I actually asked you in the program, or you mentioned that yourself in the first module. And I started to ask people, so why are you here? Because if you don't know why you came here, you can't really take something back home. And he said, you guys did a good advertising, it looked good. I thought if I don't come, I miss something.
Yeah.
So I hope it was worth you came and you stayed 3 modules. So you had fear of missing something. Now that fear is gone because you were there,
yeah.
What is the next fear? Like, what are you afraid of now? Now you have seen everything, you can go back home and do a great creative agency.
Yeah.
What would be you afraid of?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say that I'm really afraid of something now, but I think that I understand much better what is the risk that is ahead of us. I was honest when I said that I joined the program because I had a feeling that I'm missing out something. And you know, I have a strong feeling that most of the people who came in the program, although they didn't recognize it, but they had the same feeling. Now, having it, I understood one simple thing, and by the way, it was in the Excel model. What the technology does and what the disruption does, it removes the middleman. If you take a look at the biggest technological disruption, what it did, it just removed the middleman from the equation. PayPal removed the middleman in the international money transfers, so the banks are not there anymore. Airbnb removes the hotels from the travel business. And you know, if you take a look at these big revolutions, you will see that the middlemen are gone. Now, we are, as agencies, also middlemen, because we have the talent that our clients need. And if there is nothing that we give, but just be a tin can where we have the talent contained and controlled, and we slap 100% overhead on top of that, we'll definitely be removed, just like any other middleman. And I think that's mostly what happens to the industry right now. So I wouldn't say I'm afraid of this, but I understand perfectly that the highest risk for the agency of the future is quite simple. If your setup, in the end, does not multiply the value of the talent that you have, you will be removed simply by a platform that gives all the infrastructure for the teams to get together and do the work for $9.99 a month. And if you compare it to the CEO cars and bonuses and stuff, obviously it's going to be a thing of the past. So that's one thing. And the second thing I think of right now that I became quite scared of is Brazilian capoeira. Because the guys who were in the program, they know that I got a bit of Brazilian capoeira smacking in the middle of the program from one of the teachers.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Good
So
job.
I would say, yeah, these are the things that.
Fantastic. You don't know what he's talking about. That was internal.
Yeah, but
But let me follow up on the fear thing.
Please.
I think what we have to deal with is lately, and a lot of the participants, I'm sure, because they came up to me afterwards, and we had always a conversation about it, is like the fear and learning about how to deal with ambiguity. And I'm sure you've heard it like methodologies like design thinking, and I come from a company called Frog Design, who's doing that for 50 years now, so going through a design thinking process. But the funny thing is, it is not a process actually that is the challenge, because you could buy a book and you could repeat that. It is again dealing with that uncertainty and with ambiguity. And this is, I think, the biggest challenge that we have, and that you actually feel comfortable with that. Because now the positive part is we have all the capabilities if we move quickly enough to open a company very easily. You know that I'm a huge fan of 2 years ago, I became an e-resident in Estonia. So for doing some small promotion here. So for $100, you can actually become an e-resident, and as a follow-up from your laptop actually, when you're an e-resident, you can build your company. So you can run a global company out of Estonia from wherever you are. You could actually go to Georgia and open a bank account there and open your very, 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 very cool bank account there. And out of those patterns, you can create a global company with all the possibilities to challenge like really large corporations. And I'm not kidding here.
By cool, he means money. That's easy E, if you watch like Straight Outta Compton. Check that out. I have a last question for you guys, and any of you can jump in and talk about that, because we've been so much talking at the end, and especially for myself, maybe I'm no longer objective, but like everything came from me down to human-centric, like the future of the agency models is very much human-centric, is the talent-centric, is client-centricity. Can any of you expand on it and tell me something about that? And you can take it from any perspective, starting with you closest, or anyone else. Just jump in if you like. You don't have to.
I noted something down from, who said it? I think Fergus.
Fergus is the ex-Facebook Chief Creative Officer, and before that, Global Ogilvy Creative. Yes, please, go ahead.
Or was it? No, I don't know. Whatever. So I was thinking of this, talking about human-centric, that I think the most important thing is really to figure out what you want yourself, and then apply that to yourself, and then maybe apply it to other people. I think that's the most important thing. I think that lots of the difficulties people were struggling with themselves and with the whole thing is because they're so unsure what they want to do. And I find now having the possibility not only looking inside of my own agency, how can I solve this problem, how can I solve that problem, that really those who found their niche and work in that niche are really the perfect guys for totally different jobs. Like having this guy to build a fair stand, or this guy to design something, or this guy to do this, or that guy to do that. And there's just a vast possibility. And I didn't know the dots from yesterday. That's something I will immediately look in, and you just go through. And it's like the same thing as working as an art director. You pick this photographer because he does this, and you pick that because he does that. And that should be the same for all creative people, I think, just to figure out what they really want to do and then stick to that.
And in regards
2 minutes.
of human-centered, I mean, in the end, we want to create products or services that really solve a problem, and not only for the client, but also for ourselves. And that was also a huge part of one block that we actually had. So we have a freedom, actually. Why are we actually sitting in a shitty office in a very expensive city at a company? Why we could do that remotely from anywhere in the world, actually. And we can probably do the same job. So I think this is something that we have to think about, and that is human-centered for me as well.
Thank you.
I could add to that.
I give you 30 seconds.
All
I'm
right.
playing my teacher hat on right now, but go ahead.
All right. As the owner and as the leader of an agency, after the course, I've realized that we as leaders are not supposed to set in place procedures and do follow-up, but we are there to protect and to nurture a certain culture. And I feel that the future of creative organizations is way more building on a culture rather than building on processes and procedures.
Definitely agreed. Interestingly, and it was not planned and agreed because they didn't have the time and the permission to read the white paper, but I assure you, stuff you guys said is reflecting there. So thank God I wasn't, at least you three can then sign up for that. If the rest of the people come and say like that wasn't what I thought, that's a different thing. Stay with me, don't go, then we can go together. At the end of the white paper, you will find such examples. So the white paper goes through that blue dots you saw before as headlines, and these are the typical examples of sample organizations people developed, and we tried to partially even simulate a pitch with them. We had Fernanda in the second module here in Barcelona, and she took with herself real client briefs and client situations. And so we gave the groups who were working on these models and said, so, okay, if this is the structural model you thought, and if this would be a client brief, how would your business model look like? So how would you really then pitch with such a, how is the financial aspects of it looking like? So we started to test an interaction with a real client or a real client brief using the different models. So you will find that type of things at the end, and we started to go through, it was a lot of them, so we are finalizing them each one by one and add again and again to the new versions of the white paper. Then the next thing, so this is, again, thank you, Marty. You can clap for Marty. This is what he did. Awesome. Well, I would like to do that. I have the privilege of being here doing this. You can sit there and don't like it. But I like it. I mean, don't like clapping. And so, yes, here is where you can find it. And I'm going to be passing it on to Mercé. And she said that at the ADCE, you guys now have the blog on your website. And in that blog, you will then find the link to also download it from that corner. Is that correct? Did you hear that? So in the homepage, there will be a note, and then it will link. So it's easy to find, I guess. Don't look for the word blog. I made a mistake. Okay, I don't know why I had the blog in my head. So that was the second information. And I've been talking with the president of ADCE, Ami Hassan. He gave me some good tips. I spoke to Johannes, to Merce. I was having the pleasure of meeting the board members 2 days ago, and out of that impressions, as spontaneous as I am, or not spontaneous, but like gut feeling-wise, I started to already feel what is the next year's Creative Incubator title. And I'm still going to have it go through the board to get their fine-tuning tips and tricks and making it shishi and tata and finalize it. But this is the tendency I'm heading. I'll let you a second to read that. Someone told me if you have something up there where you can read, you don't have to repeat it, so I don't repeat this. But to give you that in a second in my words, we want to see how can we take this. You remember Khan here yesterday, and he was talking about this creativity be this something you guys have and many others don't. So I want to take that out of you. I want to turn it into a magical sword, and I want to kill all enemies of human beings. So this is the mission. I want to really build something out of creativity what can be applied to do more than great campaigns and great communication. And Amy was right, whether the future agencies are like giants who manage to survive or mid-size or small, so money they have to make anyway. So I need to figure out how can we solve social causes and problems and yet make money to pay rent and motorbikes and whatever other things you would like to have. Yeah, I was thinking of you, of course. And if I have that, I think that's a good concept. Also, I'm trying to go through this and build a bridge between, within the current environment of the agencies, the bridge between the creatives and non-creatives, for them to understand one another and to find a different way and standard and process of using and developing creativity. With that, thank you very, very much. Thank you guys very much for joining me on the stage. I will be passing on to HP as promised, time-wise, and feel free, as the regularities say, at the very first of the white paper, you will find my email address as responsible. Please, if you find like kind of anything like typos, dots, beauty surgeries, content, reminders, please, please, please communicate it with me. I would love to get this better and better and better. I don't want to have it static. I want this to be alive and constantly be the glass ball we look at so that you can come back anytime, click on it, download it again, and see it being already processed, and so that we can constantly tell the future. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Okay.